Professor Black Ops, Cybersecurity for the People. We're going to go over what are the Windows 10 security checks for a desktop or laptop. You can see we're going to go over Windows Security, DISA STIGs, a little zero trust, a little zero knowledge. We're going to actually talking about how does a corporation or a company or a government agency manage its devices. And of course, we're blue team. So let's get into it. So quick thing on DISA STIGs and what they are. The National Institute of Standards and Technology, NIST, provides a reference guidance across federal governments. And the Federal Information Security Management Act, FISMA, provides guidance for civilian agencies and departments of defense systems. Have yet another layer of requirements propagated by the Defense Information System Agency, DISA. The federal IT security pros within DoD complies with the technical testing and hardening framework known by the acronym of STIGs, or Security Technical Information Guides. It's just the STIG contains technical guidance to lock down information systems/software that might otherwise be vulnerable to malware or other malicious computer attacks. So we're actually going to go over some of the DISA STIGs for the Windows 10 checks and security compliance. I like to use the DISA STIGs is from a compliance standpoint. We can say, okay, these checks are on, which checks are applied or we cannot apply. And that's how we can figure out what the current posture is of an organization for their Windows networking, and we can do an assessment based on those STIGs. So Windows 10 has 287 STIG checks. It's usually a bell curve. Cat 1s are highly vulnerable and highly easy to attack. It's 26 checks for highs. Cat 2 on a bell curve, there's actually 243 checks. Cat 3s are low, which usually is cosmetic or really light things. There are 18 checks. So once again, the bulk of the work is done at the medium level. There's 243 medium checks. Of course, when you have medium checks, you can have compensating controls. You can accept the risk. You can do something different. You can get cybersecurity insurance for Cat 2s. Cat 1s has to be fixed. No questions asked. None of those can be considered open. So let's go over a few of the highs just to see what they actually look like. That's the vulnerability number, 6325 high. A WinRM installer always installed with elevated privileges must be disabled. Standard user account must not be granted elevated privileges. Enable Windows installer to elevate privileges when installer application can allow malicious persons and applications to gain full control of a system. $63.35 high. A Windows Remote Manager WinRM client must not use basic authentication. Basic authentication use plain text passwords that could be used to compromise the system. 6353 high. Local volumes must be formatted using NTFS. The ability to set access permission and auditing is critical to maintaining the security and proper access control of the system. Support volumes must be formatted using NTFS file system. So inside the description, I'll put a lot of the other checks in there. I think we're only going to go over 10. So once again, I'll put a lot more checks in the description box. Vulnerability 6361 high. Only accounts responsible for administrator of the system must have administrative rights on the system. The account does not have administrative duties, must not have administrative rights. Such rights will allow the account to bypass or modify required security restrictions on the machine and make it vulnerable to attack. $63,429 high. Reversible password encryption must be disabled. Storing passwords using reversible encryption is essentially the same as storing a clear text version of the password. For this reason, this policy must never be enabled. Vulnerability 6365.1 high. Solicited remote assistance must not be allowed. Remote assistance allows another user to view or take control of a local session of a user. Solicited assistance to help that is specifically requested by the local users. This may allow unauthorized parties access to the resources on the computer. So I know a lot of help desk people, tier 1, 2, and 3 actually use remote assistance. So if we're going to cut that on, we need to let management know that that's a very high critical system. Usually for assistance, we actually usually have the tech actually go out to the user, or the user actually brings the laptop or workstation into the tech. With it being COVID, we really need to, pay attention to this and figure out what's best for the organization. Autoplay must be turned off for non-volume devices. Allowing autoplay to execute may introduce malicious code to a system. Autoplay begins reading from a drive as soon as inserted media in the drive. As a result, the setup file of programs or music, audio, media may start. This setting will disable autoplay for non-volume devices such as media transfer protocol (MTP) devices. Because if it starts autoplaying and it's malware or something in there before you tell it to play, a malicious hacker could actually put some on there. You autoplay it, and the virus actually starts affecting the system and the organization. Anonymous seed name translation must not be allowed. Allowing anonymous seed name translation can provide sensitive information for accessing the system. Only authorized users must be able to perform such as translation. The system must be configured to prevent the storage of LAN manager hash, a password. LAN manager hash uses a weak encryption algorithm, and there are several tools available that uses this hash to retrieve account passwords. This setting controls whether or not a LAN manager hash password is stored in the SIM the next time a password is changed. So pass the hash has been a known vulnerability for Microsoft for over 20 years. Data execution prevention deep must be configured to at least opt out. Attackers can constantly look for vulnerabilities in the system and application. Data execution prevention prevents harmful code from running in protected memory location reserved for Windows and other programs. So this actually helps block programs and memory for being executed by someone else. So let's switch over a little bit to how Windows 10 plays into zero trust architecture. Zero trust overview: instead of believe everything behind the corporate firewall is safe, zero trust model assumes breach and verifies each request as though it's originated from an uncontrolled network. Regardless of whether the request originates or what resource it accesses, zero trust teaches us never trust, always verify. In the zero trust model, every access request is strongly authenticated, authorized within a policy constraint, and inspects for anomalies before granting access. Everything from a user identity to the application hosting environment and used to prevent the breach. We apply micro-segmentation and least privilege to access principle to minimize lateral movement. Finally, rich intelligence and analytics helps us identify what happened, what was compromised, and how to prevent it from happening again. So the guiding principle for zero trust: verify explicitly, use least privilege access, and assume a breach has always happened. So those are the three major tenets of zero trust. So if you see on our diagram, down here is the corporate device, which would probably be Windows 10. Here would be an unmanaged device. Since we're talking about corporation or government or entity, we're going to believe that we're going to make all those corporate devices or device managed. So here you see the device inventory. So when the corporate device calls in, we check to make sure it's in inventory, belongs to us. Also coming out there is device identity, device risk and compliance stats. So when that corporate device logs in to the corporate network, and we'll show that, and we can put a risk assessment on that device. Is the malware cut on? Is DLP cut on? So we have all these various services that should be running to help us put a number on how secure do we think this device is. And at the top too, depending on the device, we can tell it if it should use MFA or multi-factor authentication. Right? So that's where the corporate device, Windows 10 compliance, and how that actually fits into the Zero Trust network. Of course, we just talking about a high level of how the Windows 95 device works inside a Zero Trust network. So we're just actually picking the surface of that. So Microsoft's secure score for a device sees the security posture of the operating system, application network, accounts, and security controls of your organization. The goal is to remediate the related security configuration issues to increase the score of your device. So on the next slide, so on your corporate network, of course this is Windows, so this is Windows Defender. If you get the proper module Windows Defender, if you can see there, it tells you that device is orange, which means it's not secure. You got 40 out of 100. It gives you the score of what part to check, application, operating system, network. Over here it shows you what things are vulnerable. So that's how Zero Trust plays into your network. So once again, when your Windows 95 device logs in, it gives it an exposure score. It looks at those 5 pillars. Then it tells you what exposures are open and what you need to fix. So also when it's PC Connect, you say, okay, it's a score of 40. Should I let it into the network? What back-end structure should I let it see? Should I let it go to the accounting, IT development? Maybe I should just give it to read-only databases. So that score is used to figure out what resources will we let this laptop or device see in our back-end, right? Zero Trust. This tells you how much we should trust this laptop. So on a corporate device, zero knowledge is proof of a protocol is a way for a prover to convince a verifier that the statement of some secret information is true without revealing the secret itself. The proof protocol may be interactive or non-interactive. Example, a verifier presents a prover with the hash H and would like to the prover to prove that she has the secret that the hash 2H. The prover produces a zero knowledge proof that convinces the verifier that she has the data that the hash 2H without revealing the data itself to the verifier. Right, so that's the new part of zero knowledge. So let's look at that. So we're going to talk about BitLocker. BitLocker is actually the encryption device of the hardware that's in your machine. So when your device boots up, it has a private key in there. So the machine is getting proof that no one has messed with the drive. Or if you try to take that drive and put it in a different machine, right, it will not boot, right? So the proof is on that drive, you got to have that actual hash key so that boot drive will be able to be read by BitLocker. So BitLocker drive encryption is a data protection feature that integrates with the operating system and addresses the threat of data theft or exposure from loss, stolen or inappropriate decommission of the system. BitLocker provides the most protection when used with the trusted platform module version 1 to or later. The TPM is a hardware component installed in many newer computers by the computer manufacturer. Right, so you don't know what the secret is on that hard drive, but since the BitLocker has your key, and when you log on, that key actually comes up, so it knows you can trust that hard drive to boot, right? Because you have the password. Hopefully it was MFA, where you had two things. You logged in with your password, then the password typically calls your phone, right? So a digital signature is a mathematical technique used to validate the authenticity and integrity of a message, software, or digital document. It's the digital equivalence of a handwritten signature or stamped seal but offers far more inherent security. A digital signature is intended to solve the problem of tampering and impersonating digital communication. A digital signature can provide evidence of origin, identity, status, electronic documents, transaction, or digital messages. Signers can also use them to acknowledge informed consent. In many countries, including the United States, digital signatures consider legally binding in the same way as a traditional handwritten document signatures. So once again, a digital signature is legally binding, also like a handwritten signature to a contract. So if you see here, this is kind of a communication between Bob the sender and Alice the receiver. So there's a plain text message. It takes the hash algorithm and hashes, takes a digital digest of the message. So if any letter changes in this message, the digest will change. So Bob takes his private key, signs it, sends a message with the digital signature on it. The digital signature goes to Alex. She has Bob's public key, encrypts the digital signature. See that digest right there? So they know that with that digest, the message has been approved and accepted, and we know nobody has changed it. So the digest hash of that was 938275653. So when Alice reads that hash message, it's the same hash message. So zero trust, we know that message has not been changed and have not been tampered, and we know the secret in there is good. So once again, that's the zero trust architecture. So as you move things through the network, your device, you get your score. Then as you move keys and files and flat files with hash and algorithm, they can go on the email, structured data, SaaS apps, on-prem apps, right? We can use that hash algorithms. So when it gets to the application, once again, the application can test for that hash signature to make sure the message hasn't been changed, right? And that would be a security policy that will flow through that your security zero trust architecture. So once again, I was just wrapping it up. I want to do something short. Windows 10, just looking at the DISA STIGs checks on there, it was close to 300 checks. So that's why I use them. I think they're the most comprehensive and the most secure. Once again, that's a high level zero trust. I think we're going to have some online demos on my channel coming up where we're actually going to walk through that with some data and figure out how that actually works in real live scenarios. Once again, Professor Black Ops, Cybersecurity for the people. If you want me to delve into anything in more depth, which I'm probably going to do in the future, but if you have any specific questions, just drop them down in the comments section, and I'll definitely reply. And if you want me to do something special, just let me know in the comments section, and I'll make that happen. Once again, Cybersecurity for the people, Professor Black Ops. Please subscribe.